Hi, good afternoon. This is Christiane Smith from Unanet. We're going to go ahead and begin the webinar now. Thank you all for attending today. So again, my name is Christiane Smith. I'm the director of Unanet University. We also have on the line today Kim Fieser, who's from our Customer Success Management team. Kim, are you there today?
Yes, I am, Christiane. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. My name's Kim Fieser. I'm from the Customer Success Management Department, and I'll be assisting Christiane today with your questions. So if you have any, please feel free to put them in the chat box and we'll get to them. Enjoy the webinar.
Thanks, Kim. So as far as some webinar logistics, as Kim mentioned, please do place any questions that you have throughout the webinar into the questions area or the chat box so that we can have access to those questions at the end, and we'll go through and answer them for you or do our best to follow up after. If you have any connection issues during the webinar, sometimes you may see things like your audio is not available. Sometimes you'll need to switch over and connect to your phone. If you're having issues with the webinar itself, you might need to drop off and just reconnect to the webinar, and that will work every time. We are recording today's webinar, and so if you do miss any of the content today due to connection issues, please look out for a recording of the webinar next week in the Knowledge Center. We'll send you a follow-up email with a URL to the Knowledge Center so you can access that webinar area, and we'll post the video there for you. So our topic today is what's new at Unanet. We have Unanet version 10.3 that's coming available, and we have some great feature enhancements really related to fixed price posting for revenue specifically that I'm going to walk you through today. We also have a new feature that allows the system to do some different calculations when rounding pennies in the invoices. And so I wanted to walk you through those items and give you an example of how that rounding property will work in the system. And lastly, there are some new invoice layout enhancements that are coming with version 10.3 that I'd like to show you. Some new ability to do some subtotaling and grouping of data that you may find very helpful and may want to go out and update your invoice formats to include those new values. There are other enhancements that are available in Unanet 10.3 that are coming. I did a webinar a number of weeks ago about some of those other enhancements, including things like email alert messages and some other great features in 10.3. The help documentation is available now that documents all of the changes that are coming in this latest version. So if you have any questions or concerns about any of the items that are coming available in the new release, please contact us, and I'll give you some contact information at the end of the webinar so you can ask any questions that you have. How about the dates? Well, if you're hosting Unanet yourself, meaning that you're on premise, you have your own server and you're connecting to Unanet, you do have the ability to go out and migrate your database to Unanet 10.3 now. It's been available for a number of weeks on our website at unanet.com. And the support team will be able to help you on the technical side with any migration questions that you have. If you're on the cloud, or we are hosting Unanet for you, so you log into unanet.biz to access your Unanet site, we will be migrating your data on Sunday, July 23rd. The system will be down until approximately 5 p.m. in order for us to apply these updates and changes into the database environment. May become available earlier if we are able to finish that migration earlier. The administrators of your Unanet system should receive a message when they log into the system showing them this information. And we're happy to get the latest and greatest version out there and available to you to use as soon as possible. So take a look for those changes on July 23rd. So let's talk about fixed price posting in Unanet. So today, when we do fixed price postings, we don't necessarily look at the posting date when we are doing calculations for percent complete funding caps and fee caps, which sometimes means that we have revenue information showing in a month that is not quite aligning with the dates of work. So I wanted to run through an example of that. So today in Unanet, when you have some billing items, for example, I have 2 items here, one on May 15th and one on June 5th, totaling out to a grand total of $3,000 for billed items. If I'm recognizing revenue based on percent complete, what happens when I go out and do my posting for May, this first line item, looking at the percent complete as of that May 15th date, I'll go ahead and post out $600 or 20% of the $3,000 total in May. When I go in to do my June 5th post of $2,000 for billing, my new percent complete is 35%. So the system's going to take 35% of this $3,000 total minus the 20% already recognized and post that in June. Okay, and that means that I've posted now $1,050 worth of revenue, which is 35% of the total amount. So the amounts are accurate, and that's all great. What happens if I'm trying to have the month-end post for May, however, is that when I go back to May 31st to post revenue, if my project was 30% complete as of May 31st, I'm going to go in and add a negative entry to May and a positive entry to June. What happens in this case then is that the June revenue may be higher than May, although the majority of the work was done in the month of May. So we're going to give you an opportunity now to post the revenue a little bit differently, if you'd like to be able to show the revenue based on when it was worked. So we are going to have now the posting date considered when you're going out to do your fixed price percent complete calculations, funding caps, and fee caps. There's a new option that appears on the billing and revenue post screen that allows you to post your billable fixed price items separate from the fixed price revenue. Please note that if you are recognizing revenue when the item is billed, that the revenue is still going to recognize when you bill the fixed price item. So that's not a part of this new calculation in posting fixed price revenue. It's really applicable to, again, your fixed price percent complete items, the funding caps, and the fee caps. So let's look at another example of this, and I'll show you how this will now work in Unanet 10.3. So again, I have the same item amounts, but now I'm working in June and July. So in June, I have June 15th, I have $1,000 to bill. July 5th, $2,000 to bill, with a grand total of $3,000. You'll have the opportunity now to post your billings separate from your revenue. So on June 15th, I can go out and post the billing for that first item, and $1,000 will be recorded in my June billing. The project may be 20% complete, but at this point in time, I'm going to, if you will, skip that portion of the post and not post any revenue. I'll come in at the end of the month, June 30th, and post my revenue. At this point in time, my percent complete has increased to 30%, and so I'll post 30% of the total value, or $900. Moving into July, I'm going to want to post the billing for July 5th because that's my next item. That's a $2,000 bill. I'll post that. Although now my project is at 35% complete, I'm not going to do anything with revenue at this time. But at the end of the month of July, I'll go out and run a revenue post. Again, looking at the project's percent complete, looks like no further work has been done. I'm at 35%. So I take that 35% of the $3,000 total minus the revenue recognized in June to come up with my July revenue. So again, this is a new option that you'll have in the system to separate the posting of the bills and the revenue for those fixed price items where revenue is recognized based on percent complete, or you have a fee or funded value cap that you are recognizing revenue for. It allows you to run that revenue at the end of the period separately from when you may be billing items on a schedule. Okay. In addition to these new fixed price items, we also have some great invoice enhancements that are coming available in Unanet 10.3 that I wanted to be able to share with you today. I'm excited to show you some of the new features that are available in the invoice formatting tool. But before so let me give an example here of some of our new subtotaling areas. We have in the past had the ability to go out and create sections within labor or expenses. Now with any kind of labor section, whether it's time and materials or cost plus, you are able to add in subtotals for the amount, the hours, or the inception to date hours. So this is within the labor sections themselves. I've chosen in this scenario on the screen here to create a subcontractor labor section separating and filtering by cost element that's going to allow me to show my subcontractor labor by labor category with a section subtotal of inception to date hours. You could also create filters by labor category, so you're able to create sections by different labor categories, and that will give you the ability to do inception to date hour totals for things like the project management labor category, but perhaps not necessarily for the other labor categories. So you can create these subtotaled sections to be able to show subtotals for the areas where you specifically need it. There's also a new property setting that the administrator will have access to in Unanet 10.3 that allows you to change the date formatting of your invoice. So traditionally, or by default, we are going to show the dates as month, day, and a 4-digit year, and you have the opportunity to change that on the invoice based on this new property setting. Again, that the administrator has access to control. Last but not least, one of the new features in Unanet 10.3 is the ability for the system to do some automatic rounding when we complete the invoices so that the invoice amount is going to be the same as the invoice totals that are posting. In this example, you can see here that I have an invoice for a total amount of $34.85. This invoice is still in a draft status. It has not been completed at this point. When I look at the detail inside the invoice, where I'm drilling down into the detail at the labor category level, I can see my hours and my rate are totaling out to $34.86. The difference here is that I have a rate and hours that I'm calculating and rounding at a different calculation total than my overall total. Really behind the scenes, we're carrying out to 5 digits in the rate calculation, and so, and all those calculations, and so the penny rounding difference is popping up between the total sum amount of the invoice and what's shown in the detail when I print the data at a detailed level. We have a new feature in 10.3 that's going to allow you to autocorrect invoice rounding. This is a property setting that will apply globally to all of the invoices in the system. When you select this option, then you also have the ability to override this setting on an individual project or individual invoice level. And so you may just need to use this function when you have invoices that are very detailed and showing a breakout of information where the totals of each line item of breakout are rounding to display on the invoice differently than the total overall calculation that's being made at the global invoice level. With this new value property in place, the value of the invoice is and what is posted in your general ledger will always match out to what was included in the invoice. You can see here that the daily calculation to come up with this grand total of hours is where my penny difference was rounding. And in this case, I'm going to write off the penny so that the total invoice amount and the individual line item amounts are going to match out. So with all of these great improvements available, I wanted to go in and show you some changes to the invoice formatting, and then we'll be able to go in and answer any questions that you have about these new features. So let me switch over here to my Unanet database, where I currently have up the invoice format that I accessed by going through the admin dashboard into the setup submenu and here into the invoice format. So as I mentioned in the presentation, we've had the ability to go out and add labor sections for some time. When you add a labor section, you're now able to add in these subtotal areas for that section. This is applicable on the time and materials labor, as well as the cost plus labor, where you can go in and add, again, sections here, and then be able to subtotal those sections as needed. When you're adding in sections of labor, basically what you're doing is you are adding in areas that you want to subtotal differently. So for example, I could show things by the cost element, meaning separating things like direct labor from my subcontractors. Can also separate now in version 10.3 of Unanet things by the document type, meaning that you can separate out things like your customer payments from any journal entries that are made into the system, etc., which is really more applicable in your ODC calculations, but something that you might be looking to do. Okay. So here, for example, I can separate my client site labor from my company site labor and show the difference between what work was performed at the client site versus what was performed back in the headquarters office. That's just an example of how you can use these sections. Then when you've added in the sections, you're able to do these separate subtotals. So back on my time and materials labor, here I did go out and separate my subcontractor labor from my direct labor. And in the invoice preview, I can see here then that my subcontractor labor section is going to display each labor category separately and have the inception to date total hours here for the subcontractor labor. I've also added that to the direct labor so I can see the subtotal that's happening on the direct labor. This is slightly different than your summary of the invoice format, where we have the inception to date amount options, which are going to show inception to date totals for each of the line items that you have. If I scroll over here, I'll get my preview, at each line item level. So sometimes what you want is this subtotal and the inception to date hours just for one category, not necessarily for all of these individual contributions. And so that's your difference there. Inception to date here on the summary tab is for all the data in the invoice. Within the labor sections, subtotaling is going to be just for that particular section, and you can control that by section. On the expense side, again, both the time and materials expenses and the cost plus ODCs, we do also have the ability now for you to go in and create sections based on, again, this idea of the document types. If you're using Unanet Financials, that will allow you to pull in things like journal entries or vendor invoices to your invoice, and then show that information separately when you go out to show that information within the invoice itself. So you can separate your vendor invoice information from those things that are coming into the invoice from a Unanet expense report. And again, it's refreshing my preview here. So I can go down and look in the expense section, and I can see that I have my reference from my vendor invoice and then my regular expense report items here. And I could choose to label that maybe more appropriately, so it makes a little bit more sense here with subtotals. This is also available within the cost plus area so that you can see that separation coming out in your ODC sections with your other direct costs. So some great new flexibility in the invoice formatting. We are excited to be able to accommodate these new requests that have come in from customers to allow you to have your invoices give you all of the information that you need. So Kim, I'm going to open up the floor and ask if there are any questions out there.
Hi, Christiane. We do have a few questions. One of the first questions from a customer was regarding this release. If these updates are only applicable to financials customers, or are all of our customers going to benefit from the update that we have to 10.3.4?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are some feature enhancements that are related to other areas of the product outside of these items that I'm showing today with invoicing and fixed price posting. Please keep in mind that the fixed price revenue recognition and all of the billing information and posting are available in the tracking license as well as the project portfolio license. So even without financials, you can take advantage of invoicing Unanet. If you don't need to generate your invoices in Unanet, many of our customers will still build out their fixed price revenue schedules and post the fixed price revenue so that you're able to look at that revenue over a periodic basis or within the accurate period when you're looking at reports like the cost summary report to see your profitability by project. So those feature enhancements and changes to the fixed price revenue recognition posts are important really for everybody that's managing a fixed price project. In addition to these items, let me go ahead and open up here in my browser. We do have a help document that's available currently with the what's new in this release for 10.3. There are some additional functions that have changed outside, again, of this area. We have some new feature enhancements for organization and contacts, project filters, project alerts. So these things are really involved in managing your customers and managing your projects. So some great information to go out and take a look at here in the help documentation and also within the Knowledge Center with our previously recorded webinars and our articles in the Knowledge Center.
Okay, that's great because that was my second question was about where we could find guidance on the invoice format changes in the Knowledge Center. So both the Knowledge Center and the Help Docs have that for you. Let's see, I have a few more questions. Just let me see, pull up the next one for you.
Okay, while you're doing that, Kim, I will address too
okay.
with the invoicing. Actually, in the Knowledge Center, we've just revamped our invoicing and posting guide. So I'm glad that you mentioned that because that just came out in the last week or so, and that's a pretty cool little feature. So let me see if I can pull that up real quick here. So if you go out into the Knowledge Center, which again is accessed by kc.unanet.com on the web, we have an invoicing and posting guide that has just been revamped, and it includes all the different information about the various sections with your invoicing, things like the periodic post and invoice process and what's being included in things like your billing and revenue post, which I was just mentioning, the changes there with fixed price items, as well as some of the items that you'll need to set up from an initial configuration perspective. So if you haven't looked at this documentation in a while, or you're just familiarizing yourself with things like revenue posting or setting up invoices in Unanet, I would certainly recommend that you take the time to go out and look at this invoicing and posting guide and let this be, you know, an area of documentation for you and things to set up, considerations, where you can find more information.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thanks so much. I have another question from a customer, but it's related to a custom invoice that they have where they're coming across a penny rounding difference. They have two invoices, a summary invoice and a labor detail invoice, and they're wondering if there's a way to fix the two so they match.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you'll find with this new feature enhancement is that in addition to, in addition to rounding the difference here between the final posted value and the detail value, as I'm displaying here in this very simplistic example, the same idea will apply in your formats themselves. So when you have a summary format, you should see those changes now coming in with the detailed format itself. The detailed format is going to drive the overall value, if you will, of that invoice. So it is something that you should take a look at when this new feature is available to you in your database, and confirm that you have that option set up in the project in the project invoice setup is where that is held, and so that's called the autocorrect rounding option.
Okay, fantastic. I also had some questions about the differences between the billing and the revenue posting, and they wanted more explanation. Where would they go to find out more information about the difference between the billing and the revenue posting process?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, currently, when you go out in Unanet to do this function, if you will, under the financials dashboard, the billing and revenue post is done together. We do kind of look at both sides of the equation when we do that post. What's going to be different now is the ability, based on this flag setting, sorry for the scrolling, to opt to not do both pieces together for fixed price items. I think the best reference, though, on what's included in how we're calculating what's billing, what's ready to be billed, if you will, and what's calculated as what's ready to be posted for revenue is going to be back in that same Knowledge Center entry on the invoice and posting guide, where we have the billing and revenue post item out here, which talks you through kind of this posting process. There are some considerations here for different things that are coming in and the transactions that are going to be involved, so that you can look and see that information. In addition, we do have the billing and revenue detailed report that shows the details of each item that's included in the post, both on the billing side and on the posting side, which I think is one of the reports that we're likely going to be linking into from this document. And so I think that would be an important item to look at as well. Here's a help document on the billing and revenue post, where we have things like the general rules for the posting.
Okay, great.
You can see there's a lot of details in here about the different rules that have to all be working in order for this to post. So
right. There was also, I have one question that came in the question box, and are we still going to be able to post billing and revenue at the same time?
Yes, you can, absolutely. So you do have the option to keep these both selected, which is going to be the default, and you'll be posting the billing and the revenue at the same time. So you can continue to do what you're doing today, no problem.
Okay, fantastic. Then I have someone who wants to know, at the beginning of the webinar, we did state that we're going to post this recording, and I think Christiane said in about a week, but I also have someone who wants to know if there's a course available for financials at Unanet University.
Oh, that's such a great question and so near and dear to my heart. So, so thank you for asking that. We are working right now on releasing the financial end user training, which is going to be all hands-on training that you can do that through self-paced learning and learn it whenever you would like to sit down and learn it. We are also in the process of developing our financial administrators course, which we're hoping to have available and some dates published still this year. So be on the lookout for that on unanet.com and in our customer newsletter. So we know that we need it. It's coming.
Great. And also, will the PowerPoint slideshow be available for download with the recording?
Yes, we'll put this one out there since we have the calculations, setting up here in this PowerPoint example. So yes, we'll put this out on the Knowledge Center so you can take a look at these calculations in detail. Sure.
Okay. Great. I think that's the majority of the questions. If there are any other ones, we will answer them offline, some of the more detailed ones or specific ones to the system. But I think I got everything.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kim.
Welcome.
Okay, excellent. So again, please look out for the Unanet 10.3 features coming available. If you are hosting your own Unanet solution, you can talk with your IT team about getting the migration completed. It is available. The software is available on our website to download and have access to in your own system. Your IT folks will just need to go out and perform that maintenance, and our support team is happy to help them with that. If you are accessing Unanet from the cloud, logging into unanet.biz, we are hosting Unanet for you. And we will do this migration to version 10.3 on July 23rd. We do have a class of Unanet University we do have a list of Unanet University courses out on our website and available. We will have a class on cost, revenue, and profit reporting in October, and that's the class where a lot of this kind of information is coming into play, as well as the billing, invoicing, revenue recognition class later in October. But if you have any items that you'd like to go out and join us for a UU class, we'd love to have you. We do have some classes next week. The registration is closing. Classes are almost full, but we do have a couple of last minute spots if you'd like to register for next week. And those are all held in our Virginia office. So as far as next steps go, please do contact us if you have any questions or concerns. The support team is available at support@unanet.com or at the phone number here posted. If you have any detailed questions that you think of after today's webinar, please let us know. Or if you need any support with that migration, please let us know. And also, you can always reach out to your customer success manager, csm@unanet.com, and we will have this recorded webinar out and available on the Knowledge Center sometime next week. So thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm going to give you some time back in your day. We really appreciate you participating, and we hope to hear from you soon. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.